Yo, what is going on? Well, I look dark in here. I look dark. Is it just me? Am I tripping? I don't know. Hold up. This ain't something. Let me see if I could adjust this without getting up. All right. That's better. What the hell? All right. That's better. Yo, what is going on, everyone? I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm Marcus here. We talk attorney reactions to current events, trending news. Hey, I'm appreciative that y'all could tune in. Shout out to all the subscribers, the channel members, everybody. I appreciate y'all. Yeah. I know. I don't know. I haven't been on in a while because it was school, man. School was that joint was it wasn't difficult. Like chemistry and physics classes, it wasn't. They were not as difficult as I thought, but they were more time consuming than I thought. But anyway, we here. We're gonna talk about a few topics. As always, if you get some value out of this content, like, share, subscribe, comment, interact, dislike, all of those good things is up to you. In this video, we're gonna talk about a few cases before we dive into this David dude who I'm just saying, isn't that I don't know. We don't know all the facts, but just on his face, it's I saw what you said. I just chose to ignore it and put my own word in to what you said because I'm fooling with you tonight. I saw what you said, but so we're gonna talk about a few stories. First, we're gonna give a quick update on Rampage Jackson's son Raja. We're gonna talk about the Delta State hanging case and take a look at what the latest reports is because I saw everybody reporting about it and I was like, yo, what happened? What did they find? I had my suspicions when I heard it, but we'll dive into it. We're going to talk a case about a mother who is accused of being a vigilante and jacking up some kids, allegedly, hypothetically, for purportedly assaulting her son. And we're going to talk about some fake money that's being used, and it's actually a stupid story. So I thought it was a good laugh. Then we're gonna dive into this David dude and how it's probably not gonna end favorably, but we don't know all the facts, so we're gonna dive in. All right. So first, I don't even know if I'm gonna play a video for this because it's just so short. But the very first story is an update on Rampage Jackson, son Raja. If you aren't familiar, he whipped Psycho Stew's ass. Well, he didn't really whip Psycho Stew's ass. Psycho Stew wasn't expecting it coming, so he kind of, in any event, he assaulted Psycho Stew, had him in the hospital for however many days. Probably could have killed the guy. We did a video on it where we looked at the charges he could be charged with in the state of California. It looks like the prosecutors so far are going the easier route. They actually arrested him, and I got the date. I thought I had my notes up here. What was going on? Wow, my notes here. Oh, give me. No, that's the creepy singer dude. Yo, what a. I'm jacked up. I'm sorry. I'm struggle streaming, and I just got on here. All right. Here we go. So on September 18th, Rampage Jackson's son Raja was arrested in Los Angeles. The arrest was tied to an assault for Psycho Stew. We covered that story. Psycho Stew didn't see it coming. He did make a stupidest mistake, but he apologized. It appeared that Raja accepted his apology, and we know what happened. It was at a wrestling event for KnockX Pro Wrestling. By climbing in the ring, punching this dude 20 damn times unprotected in the damn face until somebody pulled him off. Jackson was booked by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. His bond was set as $50,000, so clearly he got out. Because I know Rampage is good for $50,000. That's light work for a bond for people. They probably got an asset or something worth that. Normally, they're going to look at paying $5,000 to $7,500 for that amount. He's facing felony assault charges. And right now, what it looks like they're charging him with is the least severe charge that they could charge him with, a felony assault that's associated with hospitalization and severe trauma. The sentence that he could be facing on that is 2 to 4 years. So good. I'm gonna go ahead and skip that story because I think we got more pressing stories. Do I really want to play this other video?
Authorities in Mississippi.
I don't know. It's kind of. But all right, we'll play it anyway. But so that's the update on him. This is probably not going to go well, but I mean, son of a celebrity, he got a little bit of bread. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be in there 2 years or 4 years. It'll probably be some split sentence where he got to go sit down for a little while, very short time, I'm assuming. Probation on the back end. That's how things normally play out. The fact that he took so long to get arrested was actually insane to me. But hey, when you got money, it is what it is. Felony assault, like I said, potentially carries prison times when they look at the aggravating factor, 2 to 4 years. The defense is probably going to introduce a lot of video evidence and try to make a distinction of, hey, he was a part of this show. He didn't know, to try to say that he didn't have the requisite criminal intent. But I think all of that's screwed because when we covered the video, we saw what his talk was like to all of his subscribers on Kick. It was real crazy. It was real greasy. It was a lot of self-snitching. So it's probably not going to end well. Let's go ahead and take a next look at this next video. We're going to talk about the Delta State University student hanging. I want to play this video real quick just so we can get a recap on what's going on. And I'm going to talk about some things that were weird when we found it, which led me to likely believe is in one direction. And then we're going to look at what the findings were by law enforcement that for some reason nobody seems to be talking about.
Authorities in Mississippi are now working with the FBI and tell us this morning that they can only say so much, but are trying to make clear to the public that the tragic death of Delta State University student DeMartravion Reed did not involve any foul play. Trey, as he's known, is the young black man who was found hanging from a campus tree on Monday morning.
We recognize.
All right. So as soon as you hear any story about a young black man hanging from the tree, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad just because the nature of how the young man lost his life, racial component is in Mississippi. It's given all of those things when you look at it and look kind of sketch. Let's finish watching this video. I'm going to tell you some things that initially pointed me in one direction. Y'all let me know if y'all had the same thoughts as y'all heard about this.
That this is not only about facts. It's about emotions and it's about feelings. And the way this loss and how it was discovered affects people's lives.
Reed's family is having trouble believing authorities, saying that he was happy and excited about college.
I will tell you just off the break, family members, I mean, let's just keep it a buck, okay? Let's say people have no clue what other people are feeling on the inside. You could be laying in the bed with a person at night and you don't know how that person feels about themselves. They could be putting on the show. So it's not uncommon or shocking that they're saying the family members were shocked and they don't believe it because he was happy and excited to go to school. That's actually quite common for people who suffer with depression and things like that. They have a persona. Again, this is just all the initial stories, but we're going to talk about the facts that gave me reason to kind of think no foul play was possibly likely. But I do think law enforcement could have done some things different. We'll talk about it.
They're demanding to see video of his final moments that police say they have.
There's video out there, and we can't speak to that at this moment. It's still an ongoing investigation.
According to an early report from the county coroner, the student didn't suffer any lacerations, contusions, compound fractures, broken bones, or injuries consistent with an assault. Lawyers for the family are now calling for an independent autopsy and a more thorough investigation, saying that Trey's family deserves answers they can trust. We cannot accept rushed conclusions when the stakes are this high. Many students and faculty don't know what to think. Campuses like this one have been caught in the cultural crossfire with bomb threats and false reports of active shooters.
I can say that my heartbreak is comprehensive. This institution should not be associated with hate or hate crimes. If people knew this place, they look at it and say, wouldn't it be better if America was more like Delta State University?
There is.
All right. We don't need to hear anything from you. Now, let's see. Yeah, I agree. It should be about facts, but people act off emotion first and facts last. The initial thing when that first story popped up, some of the things that immediately jumped in my mind is I'm not familiar with the size of the campus. You all let me know in the comments if it's a sizable campus, if it's not. But I initially thought, unless a person is knocked out or drugged, if someone is grabbing you against your will, trying to do any harm to you, you're going to have so many defensive wounds, either from them trying to whip your ass to subdue you to be able to do whatever they want, or an alternative from you fighting, scratching, biting. So the fact that they said there were no defensive wounds or any sign of attacks, I thought was a big key fact. One thing that I would like to have seen is the area where this event happened, because I would like to take a look at where he was located at to see if this is a location that can be accessed by a single individual if they wanted to do self-harm, or if it was a location where it couldn't be accessed by a single individual, you may need multiple individuals. So had we got a actual view of where it happened at, it could have provided us with a little bit more facts. The other thing is, I don't know. I can only speak from my experiences. I even asked my son, because he's in college. He goes to an HBCU. He has a pretty sizable campus. And I asked him, like, hey, if something was happening at 3 a.m. On your campus, do you think nobody would hear it if it's this time of year? Now, maybe if it was wintertime, not as many people outside. He said it's probably a very low likelihood, because just at his campus, it's always people outside. So a scream is going to get heard by somewhere because they have multiple dorms. Now, I will tell you, the makeup of this campus could make it such where screams, noise could be made and no one could hear it. But that would have been another fact. I think the most important fact here, though, for me is the lack of defensive wounds. I do think that they should have showed more, but let's see. The fact that they said it was no defensive wounds, dragging, I'm sure autopsy was done at some point to see if he was drugged or anything like that. I actually saw a story on TikTok about a sister who went to Tunisia and got kidnapped, and she was talking about how she was her attackers were trying to subdue her in this fight that she put up. And I mean, when you being taken against your will, you're gonna fight like hell for your life. So no defensive wounds, no punctures, fractures, anything like that. Was, to me, I was like, but let's go ahead, just see a follow-up story real quick so we can see what they are asserting that's going on. This is from 2 days ago. Let's check this out. Real short video.
I pray, Father, over each and every family member, every friend.
I was in class and my mama had called me. She was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" She was like, "Oh, they just heard that a black male guy was killed on campus." And then a couple minutes after.
And the other thing too, I mean, the cops said it best. They actually have footage of the last moments of the decedent's death. Like, I don't know. I think if they got footage of the last moments as a college campus, it's probably relatively decent surveillance in the area.
Today, I got an email from the school saying, like, you know, they found the deceased person this morning.
And we just ask that you continue just to lift us up in your prayers. We thank you. And God bless each and every one of you.
Following the discovery of the deceased on campus on Monday morning. His body has been transported to the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's office. The chief medical examiner began conducting a full autopsy this morning. Preliminary results are expected to be available within the next 24 to 48 hours.
While the preliminary report of the Bolivar County Coroner's Office indicates no evidence of foul play, we recognize that this is not only about facts. It's about emotions and it's about feelings. And the way this loss and how it was discovered affects people's lives.
As a community, as a black community, like, you know, everybody's upset right now. Like, they're just trying to downplay the situation, you know. Everybody's shooken up right now. It's a lot of emotions going on.
So real quick, this is consistent with what the initial reports was. Long story short, the Mississippi State Medical Examiner ruled the case cause of death, hanging, the manner of death, suicide, according to ABC News. The results aligned with the preliminary findings from Bolivar County Coroner's Office. No signs of assaults, lacerations, contusions, or broken bones. The only thing that is still pending is toxicology reports. This may take 2 to 4 weeks. The only thing that could stir this completely in a different direction, in my opinion, is if the toxicology reports come back. But I think, I don't know. Yes, it's possible someone can be drugged, unconscious because of that, not aware of what's going on. That's completely possible. But to me, the biggest thing is they said they have video footage of his last moments. That's definitely not going to come out to the public. There's not a gazillion, but there's federal information law, and I'm sure they have matching state laws that will prevent that from coming out, even though the person is deceased. There is an expectation of privacy because of what that footage could potentially show and how it could impact the family from an emotional standpoint. But I would not be shocked because if I'm not mistaken, Benjamin Crump is the attorney. They're looking into it. They're talking about some type of civil redress or something to that effect. I don't know. But I would not be shocked if that footage was in fact shown to the family off the record. I've seen that done before. I've lived through an experience like that where a lost one was loved. There was footage of those last moments and nobody's going to court. There's no trial to be had, but that footage is something that, you know, if the family was inclined to see it, they were allowed to see it. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. If they had the video from the final moment, they should just say that after reviewing the footage, we can confirm that he died at his own hands. I agree that would make this entire thing a lot easier, but I think the facts are definitely all leaning and pointing in that direction. Some things that they probably still will want to clear up before they say anything like that is, and I don't know if they've gotten this far in the investigation, but if they rule in the cause of death of suicide, it's probably very likely. But I would take a look at other evidence, cameras, cell phone data. What was he doing in his last and final moments? Who was he talking to? Of course, the pending toxicology report is going to be interesting. But as it stands right now, when I initially heard it, I thought that it was a 60-40% chance, 60 to 40% chance, 60 versus 40. More likely than that it was probably something that was self-inflicted off the initial reports. In any event, it's a terrible story. Condolences to that young man's family. And hey, shout out if you got people in your life, even though they smiling on the outside, you never know. Encourage them to talk to somebody about whatever they're dealing with, even if they don't want to talk to you. If they don't want shit, you ain't got to talk to me. But do you want to talk to anybody? Therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever it is, have them talk to somebody. That's better than people trying to deal with things unilaterally on their own. I mean, framed like I don't know, like how can someone? What would somebody have to do to frame you? Not saying it's not possible, but what would somebody have to do to frame you to delete yourself? It ain't that much framing in the world for me personally. I can't speak for everybody, but I think that's a very, very low likelihood. I'm not saying this. We're talking about possibility versus probability. Of course, it's possible, but is this probable? I don't know. I would be shocked. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think that's a very, very slim chance. It would have to be on some movie type shit where he like, hey, if you don't do X, Y, Z, I'm going to talk about this. And it's something that he doesn't want people to know. And I just don't think, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think that's a very low likelihood. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. It's actually a terrible story. Condolences to the families. Again, talk to your loved ones, people you care about. Just because they smile on the outside, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is good. And encourage them to, if they don't want to talk to you, talk to somebody else. Now let's talk about this next story, because this next story is actually kind of crazy. Vigilante or victim? I'm gonna just go ahead, cue up the story. Let's cue up the article. Y'all make the call. Let me know what y'all think.
On social media, there are calls for action and demands for justice for a Columbia mom.
We're hoping that the community pays attention.
Real quick, shout out to I don't know who this attorney is, but shout out to Stacey Dash. She looked like young Stacey Dash before she went crazy. But hey, shout out to Lawyer Bay right here. All right, good. Let's finish watching this story.
A mom.
We're hoping that the community pays attention.
In a Howard County courtroom today, Deniba Traore was sentenced to 10 years in prison for her role in a case that started with a fight. When her teenage son was beaten and robbed on video last year, Traore called police to take action and arrest her son's attackers.
That is perfectly normal. Most parents would call the authorities if their son got robbed, got beat up. It was clearly on camera from the video. So far, nothing sounding too crazy. But wait.
But pressing police, her attorney believes, may have been the wrong move.
Unfortunately, now she feels like what she did wrong was she went to the police for help. Because going to the police for help in her instance put her on their radars.
Not long after the beating, gunfire exploded outside a Columbia supermarket. 2 teens had been shot. Police accused Traore of being a vigilante mom and charged her with attempted murder.
Okay, now, she called the cops because her son got tuned up and robbed, was hounding the cops. Subsequently, after this robbery, her son's robbery occurred, 2 teens got shot at in the same area where this thing happened, and the cops said it was mom's wilding out. Now, to be fair, she was sentenced and convicted. So we're going to hear from the attorney about some of the evidence, how it was kind of weird, and the statements that the young men who were shot at made. But to be fair, if somebody robbed your kids and whipped their ass on camera, you would probably actually think about spinning the block on them. Let's just be honest. Parents, you don't want to see anything bad happen to your kid. You actually might think about spinning the block on them. Let's listen to what the attorney has to say about what the testimony was at trial.
Accused Traore of being a vigilante mom and charged her with attempted murder. But when the case went to trial this summer, the 2 victims assured investigators that it wasn't a woman who shot them, but a man.
Both of the young men either used words like I am certain, I am positive, and they both described separately the shooter as the guy in the Louis Vuitton hat.
The 2 young men described the shooter as a male with a Louis Vuitton hat, and this lady got convicted and sentenced for a decade, I think. That's actually crazy.
the shooter is the guy in the Louis Vuitton hat.
Police had claimed they traced Traor's cell phone and white Mercedes to the crime scene that day, but forensics evidence seemed to point to something else.
My client had no DNA associated with any firearm material or firearm-related material, none at all. My client's vehicle was swabbed for gunshot residue. The expert report from the state's attorney's office is there was no gunshot residue in my client's vehicle.
Defense attorneys say detectives have identified the shooter in the case, but have yet to make an arrest. For now, support for Traor keeps growing as she prepares to spend the next decade in prison.
Sometimes the walk to freedom may be long, but she will get there.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Hi, I'm.
That's actually an insane story. Let me run that back because something sounded weird.
I am positive, and they both described.
When her teenage son was beaten and robbed on video last year, Traor called police to take action and arrest her son's attackers. But pressing police, her attorney believes, may have been the wrong move.
Unfortunately, now she feels like what she did wrong was she went to the police for help. Because going to the police for help in her instance put her on their radars.
Not long after the beating, gunfire exploded outside a Columbia supermarket. 2 teens had been shot. Police accused Traor of being a vigilante mom and charged her with attempted murder. But when the case went to trial this summer, the 2 victims assured investigators that it wasn't a woman who shot them, but a man.
This is actually crazy. How the fuck did she get convicted?
Both of the young men either used words like I am certain, I am positive, and they both described separately the shooter as the guy in the Louis Vuitton hat.
Police had claimed that they traced Traor's cell phone and white Mercedes to the crime scene that
doesn't mean that she was the shooter per se.
day, but forensics evidence seemed to point to something else.
My client had no DNA associated with any firearm material or firearm-related material, none at all. My client's vehicle was swabbed for gunshot residue. The expert report from the state's attorney's office is there.
How the fuck did she get convicted? Like, juries sometimes get it wrong, but goddamn, the 2 guys who got shot said it wasn't her. No forensics tying her to it. Only cell phone triangulation to put her in the area. If my child got their ass whipped, I'd probably be driving around that area too. So it's not unreasonable for her to actually be in the area to see, like, yo, where those kids at? What's going on? I don't know.
There was no gunshot residue in my client's vehicle.
Defense attorneys say detectives have identified the shooter in the case, but have yet to make an arrest. For now, support for Traor keeps growing as she
That don't make any
prepares to spend the next decade in prison.
Sometimes the walk to freedom may be long, but she will get there.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
That's crazy. Yes, the driver can be convicted for the drive-by. If the driver of the drive-by can be charged the same as the actual shooter. That's what I was thinking. That's why I listened to it again, because they said they have identified the shooter but have yet to make an arrest. That's the only scenario, great ear, Royster, that's the only scenario that could possibly make that statement make sense. But if you're the driver in the drive-by and you are an accessory during the fact, you can be charged the same as the principal, the person who was actually doing the shooting. So that has to be what this situation is to make that statement make sense. Interesting. I don't know. They said that now I need to look at the trial transcript to figure out what's going on, because they said she wasn't the shooter, but they didn't make a statement of, well, they put her in the vehicle, or she said she was driving the vehicle. And even if she was the driver, the fact that her vehicle, even let's say she was the driver, allegedly, but if she was the driver and somebody shooting out the damn car, the vehicle would have definitely had some gunshot residue in it. And her vehicle got tested for gunshot residue, and there wasn't none. And trust me, there's no way that you can clean up. An average lay person cannot clean up gunshot residue if a gun is fired in the car. That shit is going to go everywhere. And nobody, the average person, is not going to be able to clean it up well enough not to find it. So this is going to be interesting. They identified the shooter but haven't made an arrest. But she's sitting in custody for 10 years and got convicted, although the victim said the shooter was not her. So I'm assuming they said she was the driver, but no gunshot residue in the car. I don't know. That's crazy. It appears that she had facts that were favorable, but we don't have all the details. But hey, to be fair, if somebody fuck with your child, not saying she did this, but you will think about spinning the block on somebody who fucks with your children. 100% positive. Most reasonable adults would think of that. This next story, before we talk about this D4VD guy, that D4VD, David, whatever his name is, this dude's wild. But let's take a look at this real quick story. I don't know if this is necessarily a scam, but I watched this video for like 5 seconds and immediately laughed. And I said, whoever falls for this, they deserve everything that's coming their way. They deserve to be bamboozled, hoodwinked, run amok, led astray, had a wool pull over their eyes.
Fake bills are costing businesses real money in Gloucester Township. That's the word for
Gloucester Township. We got to make sure we remember that, because everybody does not pay attention in this township, clearly.
Police who say someone has been using counterfeit cash. And these aren't just any fakes. Action News reporter Cheyenne Corin is live in Gloucester Township with more on what police say thieves are passing off as real bills. Cheyenne.
Now, real quick, I watched a documentary about a guy who was excellent at making fake money. And you know how back in the day when you had a $20 bill and they would write the marker on it and it was change colors? He was actually, in this documentary, his money was so perfect, but he didn't know how to get the money to change color. And one day he was just sitting in the house chilling, and his girl was doing her hair. And he was like, let me see that hairspray. And he took her hairspray and sprayed the money and let it dry. And then when he hit it with that marker, that hairspray, the chemical reaction, caused the marker to change the color that it needed to change in order to make his super counterfeit money even more legitimate. So people who can make good counterfeit money, it's an art. And if you get caught by good counterfeit money, it's not your fault. If you get caught by this shit, you might be a dumbass.
Real bills. Cheyenne.
Sarah, well, police, they are calling this movie money. People sometimes purchase these bills as props for things like music videos, but police in Gloucester Township say that some people are trying to use it as real money.
All types of bills. We've seen them from 1s through 100.
If you glance at this photo of two $20 bills, you may not see a difference. But when you examine it closely, you'll notice one is fake.
Uses very simple.
Did y'all see that? Gloucester Township, whoever accepted this money, is look at the bill on the top and look at the bill on the bottom. How in the hell? This is, you know what? Let me change this footage because I don't even want y'all to see me. I want y'all to just look at this screen and just listen. Look at the bill on the top and look at the bill on the bottom. Okay, somebody may get food, but there should be a very, very low amount of people getting fooled by this money. Because on this top bill, which is legitimate currency, where it says the United States of America, if you look on the bottom, it doesn't say United States of America. It says motion picture use only. How, you deserve everything that happened to you if you take a look at this bill and you can read. If you can't read, maybe everybody who got this money can't read. And if you can't read, God bless you. I hope you can take some classes. Somebody find it in their heart to help you to be able to read. But anybody who actually can read should look at this and know this is ridiculous.
But when you examine it closely, you'll notice one is fake.
Uses a very similar font and very similar pictures to where it looks almost identical.
Gloucester Township police are calling this.
Shout out to Gloucester Township. Look at the back of the money, okay? Not only is the front of the money ridiculous, the back of the money. The United States of America on the top, In God We Trust on the bottom, for motion picture use only. Come on now. This township is ridiculous. This can't be a real story.
Hollywood or motion picture money and says it's being passed off as legitimate currency.
We've had several instances in town over the past few months where we've come across it. A few on motor vehicle stops, and a few have reported it through businesses and citizens reporting that they found it.
You can see here how the front of the bill reads motion picture use. And
it says that at the top, then it says underneath full motion. Like, these people are straight doofuses.
Instead of Federal Reserve note, then on the back for motion picture use only.
It's In Copy We Trust. It's ridiculous, bro.
Instead of the United States of America, it also reads In Copy We Trust, not In God We Trust.
So it can be purchased online on Amazon or any other retailer as prop money.
As real as it looks, officials say the fake money wouldn't pass security measures such as counterfeit pens.
Dumbasses.
They recommend using the 3 R's when
I'm not even watching this no more. I'm actually about to end this absolutely right here, because this is just the stupidest thing that I've ever seen. Let's not even look at that anymore. That was just absolutely foolish and ridiculous. I don't even want to talk about it. Long story short, let's talk about the quick legal consequences. Under federal law, counterfeiting money is a serious crime. It's under 18 USC section 471 through 479. Penalties can include up to 20 years in prison or more, depending on aggravating factors. Even passing counterfeit money knowingly is a felony offense. So anybody who passing out this motion picture money is committing a felony. But if I'm a prosecutor, like, if I don't know, if you took this money, I'm probably not inclined to prosecute this case, because, hey, I don't like the victim blame, but sometimes we got a victim blame. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the main story here. We're going to talk about David and Celeste Rivas, okay? Now, David is a singer. He got popular on TikTok. I honestly never heard of this guy. Apparently, he had a gaming channel, how he started out, and he would use other people's music. And then he got his channel demonetized. And so he's like, damn, I got my channel demonetized, and he was making good money. And he told his mother, and his mother was like, why don't you just make your own music and stop coming in here bugging me? And that is how he actually became this famous singer. I actually looked on YouTube. He had songs that had 181 million views. So the dude is popular. I think he got some platinum tracks. TikTok helped blow him up. If we all familiar, Celeste Rivas was found in his Tesla. Let's see. Not that story. Not that story. I'm looking real quick. Those questions and answers. Well, Celeste Rivas was found in his Tesla. His Tesla was essentially in a tow yard, a lot where they tow vehicles at. When they found the body, according to coroner's report, she was less than 70 pounds. Appeared dismembered, was likely in this trunk for a while. People complained about the smell, and if y'all probably never smelled the decaying body, and God bless you if you hopefully you don't ever want to, but it's a smell unlike anything else, and it's readily notable. The smell was so bad they actually called authorities. Now here's where it gets interesting. The young lady was 15 years old, but she was missing for over a year. Again, just because someone is deceased in the trunk of your vehicle does not necessarily mean that you were the perpetrator or that you committed a crime. But it is sketchy. The other thing we have to notice, statistically, when it comes to the death of individuals in relationship, at a very, very high rate, it's like 72% when I looked online. At a 72% clip, most times it's actually the person who they are in a relationship with who either commits the crime, plans the crime, or helped facilitate the crime. So let's take all of those numbers into account. Again, he's not a suspect. He's not in custody at this time. Some interesting things, again, her parents said that she was in a relationship with a gentleman named David. They clearly never met this guy. At the time, she was essentially 13 when they were talking, which is a whole nother crime that we'll talk about after we get through all of this stuff. Now, there were some things that were weird. He had some music that was made prior to this incident that was given kind of creepy. I think Romantic Homicide was the one that had 180 million views on YouTube. They had Manson tattoos on their fingers. And when the decedent was last seen, she had Hello Kitty, what do you call it, Crocs on. And interestingly enough, I seen a photo of David, and he had Hello Kitty earrings on. So off the break is given weird and awkward to me. You all let me know what you think, but off the break is just given weird and awkward. Why cancel your concerts if you aren't guilty? I don't know. I think that's actually a smart move, though. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the reason I think is a smart move, so this happened on September 8th, where the remains were discovered. On September 16th, the body was identified as 15-year-old Celeste Robinson. Her body was released to the family on September 23rd for memorial services. Police executed a search warrant on his residence. Now, it is looking crazy, but police executed a search warrant on his Hollywood Hills residence, which is tied to the artist, and they seized a lot of devices, telephones, electronics, and other evidence. There's been no arrest made as of yet. Hollywood Hills strikes me as a place that has a lot of cameras. So I would not be shocked if there's video surveillance footage. I would not be shocked if they actually issue a subpoena to Tesla to be able to get the data from the vehicle. Those vehicles are equipped with cameras. Those vehicles are equipped with GPSs. They can actually identify if David utilized his phone to start the vehicle up, to actually drive the vehicle, when and where was the last position of it. Again, as Royster said, he did cancel his U.S. shows after the discovery, but he didn't cancel it immediately. He actually did some shows on tour. They said that at one point he would bring like a casket on stage. It's actually getting kind of wild and crazy. Now, why hasn't an arrest been made? Because there's just not enough evidence. And I think the other reason why you don't hear the authorities putting out a lot of findings that they have about the evidence that was seized from their home, what they found, because right now they don't want to do anything that could potentially taint the investigation. David is definitely not broke. He has the ability to hire a team of attorneys, and because of that, the investigators want to make sure they walk on eggshells here, because if and when they hypothetically, allegedly do arrest him, they want to make sure that they have all of their ducks in a row. Now, I don't understand. Maybe it's just me. Apparently, this young lady, Miss Rivas, ran away from home multiple times. I'm going to just be honest. For me, it's beyond me how my 13-year-old daughter could potentially be out in a relationship with a grown-ass man, and I don't know who the hell he is. It won't even happen. If anything, y'all would have found David in the back of my Tesla. But I just don't understand how that happened. But clearly, the home relationship was different. It was not your normal structure, as she ran away from home several times. She's been missing since 2024. So he did eventually end up canceling his shows. Now, there were interviews that were conducted where some individuals who are familiar with David has actually said on record that they've seen him out in the past with Celeste Robinson, and they were shocked to learn of her age. They said she always presented as older. They said that she just seemed mature. I don't know how that is the case. That picture of that girl on my thumbnail, she looks like she's 6. So I don't know how anybody sees her and think that she's mature or an actual adult, but apparently they did. Now, reports suggest that she actually had multiple fake IDs, purportedly to possibly appear older. And again, David's friends said they believed her to be 19. That's actually irrelevant. So one question that was asked to me when this came out was, is it possible, he's a grown-ass man, she's 13, is it possible to use that as the focal point offense to be able to arrest David while they investigate everything else? One, they would actually have to find evidence that there was a sexual relationship. I don't know if they have that. He's made a lot of songs that's given that, but songs in and of itself can't prove the existence of a sexual relationship. So I would say no. I think that's actually a stretch. Now, there could be a caveat to that that would allow this to move forward in that way, where they can use him being adult, her being a minor. Let's say, for example, this is just a hypothetical, but let's say, for example, they do forensic lab work and they found out that this young lady was in fact pregnant, and they were able to do a DNA test, and they were able to prove, again, this is just hypothetically, they were able to prove that the baby this young lady was carrying was in fact his. Then at that point, I think they would actually have enough probable cause to arrest him on, hey, the statutory charge. I just don't want to say it because YouTube be tripping. And they can arrest him, hold him on that while they further investigate this. But if it were me and I were leading the investigation, even if that were the case in that hypothetical, I would just leave it alone, and I would only want to make one arrest. Let's line everything up. And when we arrest him, we're going to arrest him for everything that he can be charged with. So essentially, some of the legal things that are going on right here is they're actually building forensic evidence. This is including autopsy, toxicology report, DNA, fingerprints, and trace evidence. They took electronic mediums of communication from his home. So they're talking about phone, digital logs, message, travel records, surveillance video. They were in Hollywood Hills. I'm sure everybody got cameras out. They are going to look at witness statements, potential alibis, and any conflicting narratives. And the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to use search warrants to obtain evidence, more likely than that from Tesla, or potentially it could be a security company who may have access to neighbors' cameras if neighbors aren't forthcoming. But in Hollywood Hills, I would not be shocked. I think most people would probably just give over the video surveillance footage that they had if they had it. All right, deciding when to charge, prosecutors can only charge once they have a fully built case. They have to have enough probable cause to be able to carry it to a grand jury, and the grand jury come back with a true bill saying that there's enough for this gentleman to be charged. And they also want to avoid media leaks and public pressure. So as David's defense attorney, if I'm his defense attorney, am I even talking to prosecutors right now? I probably am, because one of the questions is, at this stage in the investigations, are prosecutors involved in the investigation? And the answer is probably going to be yes. Just because a person isn't a formal suspect doesn't mean there's not an investigation where they are potentially being evaluated to determine if they're a person of interest or if they're a suspect. Normally, when something happens, you do a preliminary investigation. The preliminary investigation is a smaller investigation just to determine, is there enough here for us to actually open an actual investigation, assign it a case file, assign it our full unallocated resources. They're clearly already at that second stage where, hey, there's enough here to open an actual investigation. So prosecutors do get involved at this point, not too often, but it does happen. Sometimes a law enforcement unit will go out and collect evidence. They're doing an investigation. When they get the evidence, they have to present the case to me if I'm the prosecutor. So sometimes they will reach out and say, hey, this is the evidence we have thus far. Do you think we have enough probable cause to go before the grand jury? If me as a prosecutor say no, I'll say, hey, this is a little weak. What we need to do is go back and you need to look at A, B, C, D, and E to see if you can find additional facts to bolster up this case so we can establish probable cause and get this in front of a grand jury. So, yes, he probably does have a defense attorney. If I'm his defense attorney, what I'm telling him right now is don't bring caskets on stage, lay low. After his home was searched, he broke his lease and moved out. All of that is fine, but right now you want to lay low. If I'm the defense attorney, any communication that I may be having with law enforcement, whether it's the police department or prosecutors, is my client is available. He's not going nowhere. He doesn't need to go anywhere. At this point, there's no need for him to surrender passports or anything because he appears to be cooperating. Now, cooperating is a unique, nuanced term because, one, if he has a defense attorney, most clients probably are going to lie and say, I didn't do anything, even if they did do it. That's just kind of how it goes. I would have a conversation with him if I'm representing him about his level of cooperation. If he told me, hey, I absolutely didn't do this, and he's standing on business, I'm like, hey, we here to fully cooperate. If he told me a story and this story don't make any fucking sense, I'm saying, hey, you aren't obligated to cooperate with this investigation. If the cops reach out to you, you reach out to me. So that would be the guidance that I would give as a defense attorney. One other thing the defense attorney is going to do is, hey, are there alternate suspects? Are there alternate narratives? And unfortunately, if this goes to trial, the fact that this young lady ran away from home, the fact that she appeared to have some troubles in her home situation is going to be things that are going to be brought up to trial because it could change the narrative. A person who runs away from home, a person who has multiple fake IDs, a person who does things that lack stability outside of social norms, it could open you up and expose you up to persons who are a little bit more unsavory, which could be a third party who potentially is doing this, and that person is not David. So does he have an alibi? Does he have a defense? Was he on tour at the time this happened? Can the coroners tell, based on the decomposition of the body, when the death actually occurred? And where was he? Where was his cell phone data placing him? Did he have a business obligation to be on tour? And those are some of the key things. Now, the question is why there is no arrest yet is insufficient evidence to meet the standard for an arrest warrant. It's pending autopsy, toxicology reports. The investigation is still developing leads, and they're trying to verify certain information. Strategic delays to protect the integrity of the investigation. This avoids leaks or potentially sometimes what will happen in an investigation, if law enforcement puts too much information out, you have goofies out there who will call in blindly and say, hey, I got a tip for you because they heard this information that was given by law enforcement. That's why very limited information is going out. How long do these investigations typically last? Generally, investigations like this can last a long time. You're talking about a high-profile death investigation can take weeks to months. Prosecutors want to make sure the case is airtight before they actually bring charges. Typically, the standard for a prosecutor is, I don't want to bring a charge to something that I can't prove. What standards must prosecutor have for the arrest? We talked about that. It has to be a probable cause standard. Could David remain a suspect indefinitely without charges? Yes, that's actually completely possible and plausible. As long as police consider him a person of interest, but without charges, he legally remains free and he's presumed innocent. Statute of limitations vary, but generally in most states, there is no statute of limitations for homicide. So 10, 20 years, 2 months, 3 months, they can always circle back around and get you in the state of California, I believe, where they were at. And if you don't believe me, just ask what's the guy, Keefe D, who got arrested for the murder of Tupac Shakur, which occurred a long ass time ago. Any mistakes that we can see as of now from the investigation? No. I think the more limited information they provide, the better. Does his public persona or music play a role? Generally, not directly, but lyrics and art have been used. Lyrics and art are generally protected speech, but prosecutors sometimes use them to suggest a motive or a state of mind in the case. So a song like Romantic Homicide could be something that they use to talk about his state of mind. We've seen this in the YSL trial. We've seen this in a lot of trials where if you're talking about doing goon shit, crazy shit, it's probably going to come back up. Now, let's pivot to the fact that she was 13 and this guy was a grown-ass man. The decedent, the young lady, Celeste Robinson, purportedly, according to news outlet, had multiple IDs. If they were to get him for, let's take the homicide offense out of the picture, let's take a look at just a grown-ass man dealing with a minor. The question is, would the fake ID, how would that play into this? Fake IDs may explain how they were seen together publicly. Legally, the fact that she was a minor is what matters most. It's not negated by the fact that she had a fake ID. Even if this David dude believed that she was of age, which I'm felt relatively positive that he knew exactly how old she was. All of that, his beliefs of what he thought her age may be are actually irrelevant. It's just irrelevant. It's called statutory. That's why there's a specific number. And if you go below that number and you're just going to be charged with it, it doesn't matter what your belief was. All right. What prosecution does and would be charged for a person's blah, blah, blah. Until charged, long story short, he retains his full constitutional rights. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty. What is the timeline going forward? The next step is going to be the autopsy and the toxicology report, followed by the DNA testing. Once they have enough, if they can get enough from the autopsy report, the fingerprint evidence, and what they can get from the hardware and the software off of the devices, then if they have enough or they believe they have enough, they'll present it to a prosecutor. The prosecutor will present it to a grand jury. The grand jury could come back with a true bill. Arrest warrant will be issued. This could take months. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I will tell you, I think it's actually going to be sooner than later because this is a high-profile case that everybody is absolutely talking about. So I think that this is going to happen sooner than later, in my opinion. There's not a lot of media because the victim is brown. I feel like there's enough media out there. I mean, generally that does, yeah. That family kept reporting to law enforcement but didn't receive help. That's actually crazy. But yeah, I mean, those are just kind of how the things are going to play out. I don't think this is going to be as long and drawn out as possible. I'm guessing, I mean, if I had to guess what a time frame was before we got some hardened facts, if they're all facts supported, I would say we're going to have a big development probably within 30 days. Like crimes like this, like physical crimes, they tend to move quick, so it's going to be interesting. I don't know how this is going to play out for David, but just on his face, these facts are not looking good. Even though we don't have all the facts yet, your car, apparently your girl, underage, witnesses identified you together. Witnesses said that she looked older. She had a fake ID. Is giving a bad look for you, David. That's all I can say at this point. Before we get out of here, real quick, let's talk about Diddy. Diddy is going to be going to court next week. He is trying to get a sentence of, I think, 1 year. If he gets a sentence of 1 year or 13 months or something like that, he can be out as early as October. All of the major charges were dismissed. The only thing he has is the Mann Act violations. We talked about the Mann Act before. It's an old racist law because they didn't like the boxer Jack Johnson going around the United States sleeping with all these white women. And so they developed the Mann Act to prevent people carrying women across state lines for debauchery. I don't know what debauchery is, but that's how it read. So it's essentially an act that has a racial undertone, like most laws. Most laws have a racial undertone. So the government is asking for the maximum sentence, which I think is 4 years. The state is asking for a 13-month sentence, which would give him, he's already been in for a year, so he would get out sometime next month. The state is also trying to get the Mann Act violations thrown out because what they're saying is essentially is a prostitution charge. And what they're saying is, hey, this technically should not be prostitution because the prostitutes who came and who were flown out and did all of this stuff, Mr. Combs never had any type of intercourse with them. I don't know how strong of an argument that is because you flew them out, and the counter argument is the gratification doesn't necessarily have to be you engaging in that physical act. So I just don't see how a judge is going to overturn that if that's what the jury found. Judges rarely overturn the jury. I don't think it's going to happen. I think a more likely scenario is I do think he's going to get out relatively soon. I don't think he's going to get 4 years. I think the prosecution took a big L. I think he'll be home probably before Christmas, honestly, just with what the charges are that he's looking at. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Yo, as always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in and checking out the video. I'm going to be back on the regularly scheduled program because I'm not doing 2 classes with a lab next month. I won't be doing that. Those 2 labs was a pain in the ass. Hey, as always, y'all be safe. Y'all be blessed. Stay out of trouble. Have a great and blessed weekend. Peace.